We receive enormous amounts of cultural instruction about winning, become wealthy, become attractive, and become successful. Success is presented almost like a problem with a sufficiently good solution already. But statistically, most serious attempts at ambitious things don't work out. We may become highly educated in pursuing success while remaining completely uneducated in absorbing failure. Yet, failure isn't merely an unfortunate interruption on the road to success, but it is likely to be one of the major experiences of the road. We need the ability to lose without allowing the loss to become a verdict on who we are. We need to distinguish this attempt failed from I am a failure. I didn't get what I wanted from my life is ruined. If we're going to fail anyway, and often we will, the goal isn't to make failure painless, but to make it informative, survivable, and temporary. A mature education in success will actually include a substantial education on how to fail well. So, looking at only successful people can distort our perception. We see the 10 things that worked and don't see the 20 experiments that didn't. But if each failure produces information that improves the next attempt, then attempts aren't actually independent, and the probability of success can actually increase over time for us. If we want to accomplish things that aren't already guaranteed, we have to accept the uncomfortable mathematical reality that the more things we genuinely attempt, the more times we will fail. But also, the more intelligently we attempt and learn and adjust, and the more opportunities we encounter, then the more chances we have for eventual success. So a person who never fails may not necessarily be exceptionally competent. They may be simply attempting very little that can actually fail. We need both a procedure for handling it and a philosophy for interpreting it. The procedure of handling failure prevents us from wasting the failure, and the mindset prevents the failure from destroying us. So separate the event from the interpretation. Start with the simplest question of what actually happened. In this process of failure, what actually happened? Extract 1 or 2 lessons. There's a temptation after failure to completely reinvent ourselves. It's very common, but that is usually unnecessary. Try to find the highest leverage lesson that you can find. The goal isn't to produce an elaborate explanation, but to identify what should change in the next experiment. Sometimes perhaps reduce the size of the next bet. If a failure was expensive, don't immediately make an even bigger bet just to prove yourself. No, run a smaller experiment, and don't make major conclusions while you're still emotionally flooded. Because immediately after failure, our judgment can become distorted. Give yourself enough distance to evaluate the situation properly, feel the disappointment, then investigate it. Failure is a result, not an identity, and expect failure before it happens. That may sound pessimistic, but if we're attempting difficult things, we should expect some failures. Expectation changes the whole emotional meaning of the event. Psychologically, that's how we experience it. Also, don't demand that every failure be secretly good. There's another trap of pretending that every failure is a blessing. Some failures are simply painful. Some cost us money, opportunities, relationships, and we don't have to necessarily romanticize them. The healthier position is realizing that it is genuinely bad, but I can still decide what I do with it, and that's much stronger than pretending not to care. So protect the ability to try again. Keep your identity larger than the outcome. When failure becomes less frightening, we are willing to attempt things that we previously wouldn't have attempted. And we also discover a lot more. We learn more, and eventually we succeed more. We need to construct a life in which failure doesn't stop us from intelligently continuing. Take the failure seriously, don't take it personally, learn from it precisely, adjust accordingly, then return to the game. Jeff Bezos sees failure as the price for experimentation. His philosophy at Amazon was essentially that if a company wants to make unusually important discoveries, it has to conduct experiments. And experiments inherently have uncertain outcomes. It's their nature. If we want more successful discoveries, we have to tolerate more failed experiments. So for Jeff Bezos, failure isn't an unlikely consequence. It is partly a consequence of trying things whose outcomes aren't already known. Now, another person is J.K. Rowling. For her, failure strips away the illusions. She described her own failure as devastating, but she said that it stripped away things she had been pretending mattered and forced her to concentrate on what actually mattered. What actually mattered to her. She says that avoiding failure entirely requires living extremely cautiously, and that itself can become a kind of failure. Another huge figure is Michael Jordan, who thought that repeated failure is compatible with extraordinary ability. He emphasizes the enormous number of shots that he missed, the games he lost, and opportunities that didn't work out, and connects those failures to his eventual success. One of the greatest basketball players of all time. We often imagine that being exceptionally good at something means succeeding most of the time, but in reality, someone can become exceptional partly because they were willing to accumulate an enormous number of attempts. Steve Jobs said some failures only make sense retrospectively. And Jobs has perhaps the most interesting relationship with failure. Because he says that we can't necessarily connect the significance of events while looking forward. We often understand their relationship only retrospectively. We need to remind ourselves that we don't have to know what this failure means yet. The goal isn't to become someone who doesn't fail, but to become someone for whom failure remains useful in a number of ways. So subscribe to Growthplace and check out Growthplace Premium. The link is in the description. It's our premium community. And I'll see you next time.